Hi everyone, it's Pake here. In today's video I'm bringing you a factory guide for Arknights Endfield because a lot of you have been asking for it and I've seen that many players are pretty lost with this system. In this guide I'll explain how the factory logic works, which items you should actually focus on, and how to build the basic production chains. This is important because later in the game you'll be crafting much more complex items. But the logic is always the same, it just gets a little bit more layered. However, very quick mention before we start, Eneva is a global marketplace for game keys and top-ups, often cheaper than official stores. If you're playing gacha or PC games, it's worth checking out. That said, you have the links in the description and let's start with the video. Before we start, let's answer two important questions. What is the factory for? Is it important? Yes, it is important. The factory is mainly used to generate credits, which you'll need to buy many items that improve your account and help with farming. It's also where you produce equipment, since gear in this game is created through factory system using discs. On top of that, the factory is used to increase regional development, which gives you valuable rewards, create consumables like healing capsules, and progress certain parts of the story, such as crafting explosive to break specific obstacles. When should you start caring about the factory? My recommendation is to push the story first, at least until you reach and complete the second region. At that point you unlock additional factory zones and more relevant technology, and that's when investing time into the factory actually starts paying off. As you continue progressing through the story, you'll unlock new regions, new factory areas, and more advanced technologies. The key idea is to work on the factory gradually, without stressing over it. Story progression should always be your main priority. And finally, do you need to min-max the factory? No. The factory is mandatory, you can't completely skip it, but you can ignore it for a large portion of the story without any real issue. Early on it matters a bit, later it becomes more relevant, and once you reach the endgame, you'll usually already have everything you need set up. You do not need a perfectly optimized factory to get all the required resources in the game. As long as you understand the important systems, you'll be completely fine, and that's exactly what this guide is for. The first thing you need to know is that the most important element in the entire factory system are minerals, because absolutely everything you craft is based on them. In the game we have three minerals: Originium, which is brown, Amethyst, which is purple, and Firium, which is blue. We're going to start with Originium because it's the first one you unlock and the most basic. If you open the map, you'll see icons with crystals. That means there are mineral deposits there, and if you click on them you can see which type of mineral each one contains. To be able to extract minerals, we need to bring electricity to those locations. From our main base, we take a cable and we extend it up to a maximum of 80 meters. When we reach that limit, we place a relay tower, connect the cable to it, and from there we continue extending power. We keep extending cables until we reach the mineral area, and there we connect the cable to an electric pylon. If you look closely, the electric pylon has a blue radius, that shows its area of effect. Any structure placed inside that radius will receive electricity. Once the area is powered, we place a mining machine directly on the mineral vein. Now that it's placed and powered, it will start extracting minerals and sending them directly to our base storage. A couple of important notes here. Relay towers and the electric pylons are unlocked a bit later as you progress through the story. Once unlocked, you can craft them in the base using Originium, which you can also obtain early by breaking some brown Originium rocks in the world. As for the mining machines, at the very beginning, the game gives you a basic one that extracts up to a certain amount, but you have to collect the minerals manually. Not much later, as you keep progressing, you will unlock the automatic mining machine. This automatic machine works for Originium and Amethyst. However, for Firium, you will need an advanced extractor. In the game, there's a technology tree that you progress through. To unlock new technology nodes, you need to interact with certain blue icons on the map. When you go there, you'll find a kind of yellow balloon that when you interact with it will explode and give you a resource used to unlock technology. If you can't activate this yet, it simply means you need to progress further in the story. As you unlock more technology, you'll gain access to the extractor that allows you to mine Firium, and once you have it, it works exactly the same way as the other minerals. My recommendation is that while you explore, you also try to pull cable to these mineral areas, that way you can start extracting as soon as possible. That way you will always be topped up for your constructions. Another important thing to understand is that not every region has its own factory that you can pull power from. The starting region has your initial factory. In the valley, at the top left of the map, there's another factory that can power that entire area. On the right side of the map, the Science Park, towards the southeast, you'll unlock another factory that can supply power to that area. Later on, there's also a northern region that has its own factory. However, the Quarry region in the bottom right and the Origin region on the top right do not have their own factories. Because of that, to bring electricity there, you need to extend power from a neighboring region. For the Quarry, you can extend cables from the starting region, going south and then east until you reach that area. From there, you can keep extending power normally. For the Origin region, I recommend extending power from the Science Park factory, simply running cables north until you reach the region and then continuing from there to connect all mineral deposits you find. Now we're gonna start explaining how to craft items, and we're going to begin with the most basic one of all, which is Origocrust. Early on, the game unlocks a refining machine. If we place it in the base and look at its available formulas, we'll see that one of them takes Originium as input and refines it into Origocrust. To do this, we draw a path from the output of the base to the input of the refining machine, and then another path from the output of the refining machine back to the input of the base. Now, in the base output, we select Originium as the main item that comes out. As you can see, Originium starts flowing out of the base, enters the refining machine, gets converted into Origocrust, and then goes back into the base. In other words, we're consuming Originium to generate Origocrust. At the beginning of the game, I recommend repeating this process a couple more times by placing additional refining machines and creating the same input and output paths. This way, you'll start generating a good amount of Origocrust. Origocrust is used to create other machines, but more importantly, it can be sold in the Valley region in exchange for credits. Each unit of Origocrust gives you 1 credit. It's not a lot, but this will be your first consistent source of credits in the game. And this is how the buying and selling system works. In the regional bases you unlock, like the Valley, you want to assign an operator to manage them, which makes your sales more efficient. As you generate Origocrust every few hours, when you log in into the game, you'll want to sell it to that regional base in exchange for credits. Doing this will also increase the development level of that region, and when you reach certain levels, you'll get additional rewards. As you level these regions up, you'll be able to sell more complex items for higher amounts of credits. On top of that, base defense missions will start appearing, and completing them increases the efficiency of sold materials, letting you earn even more credits. Now we move on to the next item, and this is where things start to get a bit more complex. In this case, we're going to craft explosives, which are used to break red rocks and similar obstacles that unlock new paths, rewards and progression. To see how explosives are crafted, we open the pause menu, go to the database, select the item archive, and look for industrial explosives. From there, we click on View Chain, which shows us the full crafting process. If you look at the chain, you'll see that we need amethyst, which first goes through a refining unit to become amethyst fiber, and then through a fitting unit and becomes amethyst component. That component then needs to go into a packaging unit together with agketing powder. Amethyst comes from mineral extraction, as we've already seen before, but the question is, where do we get agketing? In the Valley region, you can find a few agketing plants that you can collect manually, but this is not enough. The real goal is to use those first few agketines to create an infinite agketing loop. To do this, we go to the technology tree and unlock the cultivation node. Once that's done, we go to simulations and complete the plant unit and seed picking unit simulation. This teaches you how the system works, but more importantly, it unlocks the infinite plantation blueprint. A small but very important detail here is that many of these simulations, not all of them, but quite a few, reward you with automatic blueprints when you complete them. These blueprints allows you to automate production chains instead of building everything manually step by step. I am explaining everything manually so you understand the logic, but the seed picking blueprint in particular is extremely good. Once we place this blueprint, you will see that it includes a seed picking unit and also 2 planting units. Any plant that enters the seed picking unit gets converted into 2 seeds, which is what allows the infinite loop. We take the small amount of agketing we collected earlier and place it into the seed picking unit. Each agketing becomes 2 seeds, each seed goes into a planting unit, each planting unit produces a plant, and those plants go back into the seed picking unit. At first, this process is slow, but it ramps up very quickly. After a while, once you have around 30 agketines circulating, you can remove one of the returning paths into the seed picking unit and instead send that output to a protocol storage box, which works as a base input. One branch will keep the loop alive, and the other produces excess agketine that goes to your base. Now that we have infinite Aquatine, we go back to the explosive formula. To create Aquatine powder, we send Aquatine from the base into a shredding unit, which converts it into powder. That's our first ingredient. The second ingredient is the amethyst component, which we make by sending amethyst into a refining unit to create fiber, and then into a fitting unit to create the component. Both the Aquatine powder and the amethyst component are sent into a packaging unit, which produces the explosives. The finished explosive can be sent either to base input or to a protocol storage box, which works the same way. At this point, we are successfully producing explosives. One final efficiency detail is that the shredding unit produces 2 Aquatine powder per Aquatine, but the packaging unit only needs 1. That means we always have excess powder. Instead of wasting it, we can send that excess to another packaging line or store it into the base to be used later. And once you have enough explosives, around 5000, it's more than enough for the entire game, so I recommend dismantling this factory, because explosives are not a constantly consumed resource and keeping it running only wastes space. Now let's talk about energy and batteries. As we keep building machines, placing mineral extractors and crafting items, all of this will consume energy, which you can see at the top of the screen. On the left you have the energy you are consuming, and on the right the energy you are generating. If consumption ever goes above generation, your factory will shut down. To generate more energy, we need to create batteries. To see how to craft them, we go to their formula, and we'll start by explaining the most basic ones, which are the green batteries. After that, I'll explain the blue ones. If you look at the green battery formula, you can see that it requires a packaging unit where 2 things enter: originium powder and amethyst components. The amethyst components are made by exactly like we saw before. Amethyst goes into a refining unit to become amethyst fiber, and then into a fitting unit to become amethyst components. On the other hand, originium powder is obtained by shredding originium into a shredding unit. So we set it up like this. We place a shredding unit and send originium into it to generate originium powder. That gives us the first ingredient. For the second ingredient, we place a refining unit where amethyst enters, producing fiber, which we send then into a fitting unit to create amethyst components. Now we place a packaging unit and we send both materials into it, and it will start producing green batteries. To actually use these green batteries, we create a belt that sends them into a thermal bank that we place nearby. When the batteries enter the thermal bank, they will start generating additional energy for your factory. However, we can push this further. If we look at the packaging unit recipe, you'll see that each battery requires 5 amethyst components and 10 originium powders. In other words, it needs twice as much originium powder as amethyst components. Because of that, to make sure the packaging unit works at maximum efficiency, we add another shredding units producing more originium powder and send that extra powder into the same packaging unit. Now, for every amethyst component entering, 2 originium powders are entering as well, and the battery production is running at full efficiency. This is very good because it allows us to send one stream of batteries into a thermal bank, and if we need even more energy, we can create another belt to a second thermal bank, and the production will still be able to keep them both running. If one thermal bank is already enough, we can instead send some of the batteries from the packaging unit into the base input, so they accumulate in storage. These extra batteries can be later sold to regional bases to earn more credits and increase their development level. And as you need more energy, you simply replicate this formula and that's it. To create blue batteries, the formula is exactly the same, but we only need to change amethyst for firium. If we do that, we will start creating blue batteries, which are much better. Another very important item to craft in the factory are discs, because they are used to create gear. In the game we have green, blue, purple and gold gear. The best one is gold, which can be equipped at level 60 out of 80, and you can start crafting it once you reach the Wuling region. To create gear we need discs. If we look at the formula for green discs, we'll see that they are made by refining originium and refining amethyst, and then sending both of those materials into a gearing unit which will produce the green discs. The blue discs work exactly the same, but instead of using amethyst we use firium. As you can see, it's a very simple formula. Another key item to craft in the factory are potions, which in this game are called capsules. At the beginning you'll be able to craft C capsules, later B capsules and finally A capsules, which are the best ones. To craft C capsules we need a filling unit where 2 things will enter: amethyst bottles and bug flower powder. The bug flower powder is obtained by shredding bug flower. This is the exact same process we used earlier with Aquitaine. To do this efficiently, we need to set up an infinite backflower network, just like the infinite Aquitaine loop explained before. On the other side, for the amethyst bottles, we simply need to refine amethyst into amethyst fiber and then send that fiber into a molding unit to turn it into amethyst bottles. Once we have both materials, we send them into a filling unit and that produces the C capsules. The B capsules work exactly the same, but instead of using amethyst, we use Firium. We just want to swap the material and that's it. I'll give you an example of how to set up this. We want to use the plantation blueprint and insert book flower so that one branch reproduces infinitely, while the other branch sends back flower into the base. Now from one of the base outputs we send Firium into a refining machine and then take it to a molding unit so it gets converted into bottles. However, if you look at the molding unit, to be truly efficient it requires 2 refined Firium per bottle. Because of that, from a second output, we send more Firium, route it into another refining unit, and then feed it into the same molding unit. This way, 2 refined Firiums are entering at the same time, and the bottle production becomes much faster. On the other side, we send back flour into a shredding unit, which generates back flour powder. With this, we already have all the ingredients. Once we have both the back flour powder and the bottles, we send them into the filling unit, and this will give us the healing capsules. But here comes another important detail. The back flour shredding unit generates 2 back flour powders for every back flour used. To take advantage of this excess, we repeat the same process on the other side. We place 2 Firium outputs, we refine them, we put them into a molding unit to create more bottles, and we send these bottles into a second filling unit. But now we also use the excess back flour powder from the first shredding unit into this second filling unit, allowing us to craft even more healing capsules. With this setup, we generate a large surplus. Our characters will always have healing items available, and on top of that, capsules are some of the best-selling items in the entire game, so selling them to regions to earn credits and increase prosperity is an excellent option. As you progress further into the game, you will unlock more and more complex formulas, and once you reach the Wuling region, things can get quite complicated. Keep in mind that as you increase the development level of regions, you'll be able to spend credits to expand the size of these areas, giving you more space to build. You'll also unlock items called the Depot Bus, which allows you to add more output slots and massively increase production. At the beginning of the game, you're limited into the base with only 6 outputs, but once you unlock the Depot Bus, you can add many more outputs, create much larger production chains, and build massive lines that all feed into the storage deposit, so everything accumulates there. These are more advanced concepts, but with the foundations I've explained in this video, you should be able to understand and build any factory setup you need. And with that said, I hope this guide has been helpful. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like and I'll see you in future videos. Take care and a big hug.